Intro music.
Come on in.
A star for the ages for Tony Gwynn, number 3,000.
And the ball game is over. The series is over. Welcome to Slam Diego.
My name is Joey,
My name is James.
and this is the Brothers Padre.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2023 Major League Baseball season. Spring training officially ended today, but by the time this podcast airs, it will be tomorrow. So we're going to recap the Padres spring training, but first, we're going to recap the World Baseball Classic.
That was such a good intro. My intros are so zany, and like people are already asleep halfway through my intros. I feel sufficiently hyped to talk to you right now.
Okay.
Yes, James, the World Baseball Classic, colloquially known as the Classic by Rob Manfred. No one calls it the Classic. We all call it the WBC.
I will say one thing. I've had a lot of negative things to say about Rob Manfred. I mean, justfully so. But this whole WBC is I get what you're doing.
Yeah,
You're not a doofus.
not a complete doofus.
Not a complete doofus. He's a half a doofus.
It was a lot of fun. This WBC was it. If those didn't watch it, I'm sure you did. Basically, it was a tournament of international baseball teams competing, filled with MLB talent and sometimes not MLB talent. And it was just a tournament that it's hard to live up to the hype that it was with Shohei Ohtani as Team Japan and Mike Trout and Team USA, but it literally did. And Team Mexico, Team Italy, the Czech Republic did well. Like it was such a fun tournament.
Team Israel.
Yeah.
I mean, Team UK shouldn't have really even shouldn't have shown up. But
Hey, man, I think what's fun about this tournament is if it's because of a sudden death, because the pool bracket system, where basically you play 4 games and then whoever wins the most in that gets advanced. The 2 best records go ahead, and then instant death after that. It makes it so that you can just get hot, which in baseball we all know. If your team's hot, it can go a long way.
exactly.
And it's, and just because your team is stacked like the Dominican Republic doesn't mean you're gonna get out of the pool, right? There was huge upset. The DR, you picked the DR to win.
I did.
I picked Team Japan to win,
You did.
and I'll pat myself on the back with that one. I mean, it's not. They were already like the top. The 3. They were one of the 3 teams' favorites to win, but it was just a fun tournament. It's fun to see international baseball not only be at like it's not the World Cup level. I understand that, but that kind of excitement, that kind of energy at the stadium, that kind of energy with like I knew people that weren't big baseball fans that were big, people from different countries, and they were like, "This is exciting. This is awesome." Like it's fun to see Team Mexico. It's fun to see Team Nicaragua, where they're from, like do well, and you see these guys play, and they're all people. Someone described it as like it's what happens. The WBC is like, what if you gave every single professional baseball player a hall pass to be a little leaguer again?
Yeah.
And that's what it was. They were they were playing for one another. They weren't playing for a massive paycheck. They're playing for one another. And it was just so much fun to watch.
I agree. Australia was another team that was really good. I mean, what was it? Team Italy, like they all grew mustaches. It was insane. The Czech Republic, their coach was a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, Czech Republic had only had, what's his name? Eric Sogard. It's the only major league player. And he's not even a major league player. He's retired.
Yeah.
And they won games. They were a bunch of part-timer people that from the Czech Republic that just won baseball games against teams that had professional MLB talent.
And when it comes to, it's not the World Cup, in Japan, more people watch this than they did the World Cup.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
what was it? 41% of all televisions were in Japan were turned on to the last game.
yeah, they averaged 60 million people.
That's more people than watched the World Series last year.
Oh, yeah. It's more people than the highest World Series ever watched the World Series. I mean, it's just, this is why the tournament's so cool. And people that listen to this podcast know that James and I, we talk about, maybe not all the time, but, you and I are baseball nerds, obviously. We're not surprised by the talent from Team Japan.
I will say this, having watched that team, there isn't a single player on Team Japan that couldn't be on an open day roster on any Major League Baseball team.
100%.
Even that one kid that he was just their speed guy. He's Jose Azocar.
Yeah.
And he's on our roster. Like every one of those, Japan might be the most talented baseball country right now.
It is a hot take, but it may not actually be a hot take.
They certainly are the most beloved baseball country in the world. They love baseball there, and I know I've seen a couple playoff games in real life, and you never have, but you've been to Japan to see a Japanese game.
Oh yeah,
and that, I'm so having to see that. I'm so jealous. You actually been to Japan to see a sellout crowd.
The energy there is. So Japan's really interesting because from a fan perspective, they're way more engaged in the game itself than American baseball fans. And the players, I feel, this is now turning into Brothers Japanese Baseball History podcast. But if you aren't aware, the Japanese don't have a word for sport in their language. So it's only like martial arts. They perceive it in Japanese culture, baseball is like a martial art to them. Like that's why it's like the baseball field is like almost like a dojo. That was explained to me at this baseball game, and by a tour guide, whatever. And it was interesting, kind of see how they approach the game is like hyper serious. This is almost like a martial art. But then you have this like crazy fan culture where they have chants for every single player. They have boomsticks all over. They have cheer sections. And so it just makes a very fun environment. And then, I caveat all the seriousness, but if you watch Team Japan play, they were like little kids again. It's a universal thing to watch players and people be happy. And like you watch WBC and so many people, like so many of the athletes were just stoked to be there. And Team Japan was stoked to be there. I've never seen Shohei Ohtani that stoked on life.
Yeah, me neither. And also the other thing about, yes, there were players that were, of course, the DR was devastated they lost, but they were also all just happy to be there. They also had clearly such a great time. And yes, they were all heartbroken because Edwin Diaz, because they're all friends. If those of you don't know, Dominican Republic was beaten by Puerto Rico, and when Puerto Rico won, Diaz jumped up and down and tore his patella tendon. And ow.
It felt like an injury I would sustain, so I didn't quite believe it. I was like, You jumped up and down and hurt yourself for years to come? Yeah. That's something a normal person does.
The only other time I know of somebody who's torn their patella tendon is the comedian Tom Segura tore his patella tendon while doing a comedy bit of jumping to do a basket. And that is one of the most gruesome injuries I've ever seen. And I mean, Diaz just shook it off in comparison.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But also Diaz isn't a 43-year-old overweight man.
Yeah, it was awesome. WBC, the Team America, Team USA did an incredible job. Trey Turner's go-ahead grand slam was so hype.
I will say, next WBC, I think we're going to see a lot more American players wanting to be a part of it.
Yeah, the big storyline for Team USA was every position player there kind of was like, why isn't more people here? It's this a way more fun than spring training, and also like kind of, I wouldn't say like guilting people, but as guilty as you can get, because Team USA had incredible position players, but the pitching was not nearly as good as it could be.
Also, let's be honest, our manager probably let us down.
Well, we're not going to go into. Well, you and I are big anti certain broadcasters and how people. Yeah, the WBC coverage left a lot to be desired for.
The problem with the WBC coverage, Mark DeRosa was the manager for the American team. And if that name sounds familiar, if you ever watched MLB TV, he's one of their commentators. It's his first time ever managing. And because he's friends with all the broadcasters, every game at least twice they interviewed him. It was so irritating. And Jared and I were texting like we would be doing better if we had more experienced manager. And for real, we lost that game because you could tell by the Japanese manager was making better managerial calls.
I think Team USA, that lineup was supposed to be like thermonuclear attacks. Yeah. And it just went cold. Lest we forget, Jeff McNeil did walk at the ninth inning when the Team USA was down by 1 run.
Yes.
And Dodgers Mookie Betts hit into a double play.
I know. I was gonna say the other problem is there's just too many Dodgers on that team.
Yeah.
Dodgers and Mets. I mean, can you pick worse representatives of this country?
Pete Alonso
No.
went 1 for 47. I'm pretty sure. I don't know how, but he went 1 for 47 in a 4-game tournament.
And Mookie Betts clearly showed his age, and that was the disgrace. That how come these are two teams representing my country?
Yeah,
I was embarrassed.
Yeah, I think 2026 WBC is going to be so hyped because the last 2 games of the WBC, some of the best baseball you'll see in like the last decade.
Oh yeah,
Team Mexico, who by the way, like Team Mexico showed up and just like dominated, beat Team USA, and was leading Team Japan, all the way to the 9th inning of the final game, and Team Japan came back to walk it off. Also, Giovanni Gallegos, you let your country down. I'll be honest. Like maybe don't throw something 94 mile an hour right down the middle to a guy who hit 56 home runs last year. I don't know. Just an idea. Yeah. I'm not a pitcher, though.
I know. What am I going to do? You know what? You know what Shohei won't expect?
Yeah.
A beach ball right down the middle.
And I mean, we danced around it, but the ending of it was so Hollywood. It was the most Hollywood ending ever. Japan was leading Team America 3-2. Shohei Ohtani comes in to close it out for Team Japan. He hasn't closed the game in 7 years. Didn't really matter because he just threw gasoline, just threw 101 mile an hour fastballs by whomever.
Yeah, exactly.
And just the final, it was down. Mookie Betts hit double play, expected,
Again, showing his age. He's what, 57 now?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, he's just. Oh.
And Mike Trout comes up to plate, and first time they've ever faced each other, the 2 best players of our generation. It was just so hype. Mike Trout worked at the 3-2, and Shohei Ohtani must have thrown, I don't know, the filthiest slider in the world.
Well, because he was maxing out 102, then he threw an 86 mile an hour slider that literally cut the whole length of the plate and ended up being a ball. But
you have to swing at it.
You have to swing at it. And Trout just, oh man, it was brilliant.
The stage was set. It was awesome. Looking forward to 2026.
Yes. And if there's any games in San Diego in 2026, we have to go.
Oh yeah. There's no way it's not going to be Miami again. Miami's too good of a venue for the WBC.
Oh yeah.
It has to be like it has to be. We'll have another California stadium, but WBC has to be in Miami. It just has to be. It's just too good of a stadium for it. That town yearns for a good baseball team, and the baseball community there is vibrant. It just has to have a good team. So it was fun seeing Lone Depot Park be filled out for the first time in 900 years. I'm exaggerating a lot of numbers this podcast.
Yeah.
But it made me really, really like it. I was just so hyped on the WBC, and now it's like, oh, baseball's actually about to start.
Yeah, exactly.
Which brings us to the next topic, James. With WBC over, the spring training is now over. And we're gonna go over some fun things in spring training that our beloved San Diego Padres have done.
Yay!
Lots of interesting things. We'll caveat all of us to say is that lots of people have had great spring training that you've never heard of. So
Exactly. There was some guy wearing a number 86. I watched a couple spring training games. He got several hits, but he didn't have a name on the back of his shirt. So
tough to know. It just spring training stats are to meet things to be excited about, but not necessarily things to count on.
yeah, exactly.
But we're to be excited about something. So, James, let's go over some of the cool stuff that's happened in spring training for the Padres. The big one for me was I was super excited to see Trent Grisham not just be awful. Obviously, our last memory of Trent Grisham was having a fairly good postseason. I think that's an understatement. He had a really good postseason.
Very good postseason.
So
I remember because I like watching other people suffer. I watched a lot of Mets reactions to
you're a sick man. You're unwell.
like Trent Grisham hit a $189 to the regular season, but in the playoffs he's hitting like Joe DiMaggio. What is this? Like,
yeah. So I was just a little like, is he born for the moment? Is that kind of thing? But he legitimately had a great spring. He's hit lots of home runs, 3 home runs in a shortened spring. Last game he played had 5 RBIs with 2 homers. He looks like he is doing well, and I'm very excited for Trent Grisham. I understand that Padres fans will be like, you picked Trent Grisham? Yeah, because I feel like our expectation for the big four is there. Like, and we expect them to do what they did in spring training, right?
They all did well.
Right. But
Tatis 0 for 16 his first 60 at bats, and then his last 20 at bats 11 for 20.
Yeah. And our expectations are there, but if we get great value from our quote unquote depth pieces outside of that, it's going to mean so many good things for our season. And I'm just excited to have just Trent mash. If Trent is similar to 2020 Trent, for one, if he's similar to that, he's a superstar.
Yeah, exactly.
More than a 5-win player, and a Gold Glove center fielder. That'd be an amazing thing. So I just think if we can find insane value, for lack of a better term, or just people break out, that our lineup is going to be extra stacked because there'll be no reprieve. If you have Trent Grisham hitting the ball like that, I mean,
and that's also
awesome.
Luis Campusano had an amazing spring.
Yep.
Ha-Seong Kim hit 280 like Ha-Seong Kim. Mm-hmm. And yeah, if 7, 8, 9 guys is Ha-Seong Kim hitting 280, getting on base, and Campusano and Grisham mashing, that's pretty amazing. Because also Cronenworth I think that's like, it's so Cronenworth is like the forgotten guy.
Oh yeah. I mean, besides Manny, he's the one who's had the most All-Stars in the past 3 years. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, Dennis Lin said he's actually his sneaky pick for the best breakout this year because he had a lingering hip injury all of last year, and so he feels good. He said, and Jake Cronenworth, when he's right, he's just an incredible hitter.
Yeah,
and I feel like, there's so much. if that happens, we're just looking at a very pesky team that there's no easy out. So that's all you want. You want every inning not to have an easy out.
Yeah. The rare occurrence would be a 1-2-3
Right.
inning. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen more times than we'd like to count.
Right.
But it's the fear that it can, at any moment, we can explode for 5 runs.
Oh yeah, it was so much fun watching spring training games with Tatis, Xander, Machado, Soto, Cruz, Carpenter, and just like they score a 5 spot in 2 seconds. Like, whew.
And our depth pieces are looking good too. David Dahl, Engel, they all did pretty well. Zokar.
You're forgetting about Roofnet Adore.
Yes, I did forget about him.
I legitimately think it's like a meme. I think I'm dreaming when I see him on. He was in the game today, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. We have Roofnet Odor." I'm like, "What is he doing?" And of course, he does fine.
Yeah.
And I just like, what is he? Why do we need another infielder? I don't understand. If you followed us since last year, thank you for following. Last year James and I tried to do a roster episode and it went horribly.
It did
because they kept changing it. So we're not doing a roster episode probably until literally opening day.
Because literally we did a roster episode. We sat down and they said it was the day before opening day, and they said, "Oh, we just got Taylor Rogers." Like, what? And it was crazy, and the Padres won't finalize their roster until probably Thursday morning.
Yeah.
They have until 8 a.m. Thursday morning to finalize the roster.
And they don't do it early.
No.
They're not early people. So anyways, yeah, I don't know if Odor makes it, but he's on the spring training roster.
He is.
But yeah, we've seen great for spring training, good production and good signs.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited about that. And the pitching side, to me, the pitching side is like the big question mark. We don't know. Joe Musgrove dropped a kettlebell on his toe, as we often do.
Yeah. We've all been there.
He's already pitching bullpens, though, so he's a complete freak. He's like, I don't know, it's fine, no big deal.
He was in the North Pole this year.
Yeah.
He's seen tougher days. And for those of you who don't know, Joe Musgrove took a
I think he went to Antarctica.
Antarctica?
One of
those really cold, one of the poles. And he took it was some kid that he took him, Sean Mania, and they took a group of baseball fans with disabilities to the pole. I can't remember which one it was. I thought it was the North Pole. Because it went up through
Antarctica.
It was Antarctica?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you don't just like travel to North Pole. There's like cruises to Antarctica.
Well, anyways, Joe Musgrove is in the Guinness Book of World Records for the fastest pitch ever thrown in the coldest weather.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so he's injured. He's on the IL. Yu Darvish hasn't been built up because he played in WBC. Also, we didn't talk about our Padres in WBC. Most of them did okay.
Yeah.
Yu Darvish did good, except Yu Darvish doesn't pitch well against Kyle Schwarber.
Kyle Schwarber owns Yu Darvish.
Yeah, just the way it is.
Yeah. Sometimes
it happens. But Yu Darvish is not built up, but he's probably pitching, they say it's Sunday.
Yeah, probably Sunday.
Our starters are Nick Martinez, Lugo, and Michael Wacha. They all look fine. Starters are, especially like established starters, are weird in spring training because some of the times they're like, I'm never throwing a breaking ball for 3 games straight.
Or all they are going to do is throw their new breaking ball.
Right. And so it's just like they'll be shelled. Zach Greinke in spring training this year is like, I want to work on pickoff moves to every single base this year. So he just like walked a bunch of people and practiced pickoff to every single base.
That guy's so weird. He's so weird.
But I mean, it's spring training. It's just tough.
Famously, Greg Maddux was destroyed during spring training because he worked on his stuff in the heart of the plate, and he didn't have overpowering stuff. He painted the corners.
Right.
the season started, he was Greg Maddux.
Yeah. I don't really. I think so on the starting side, it's always kind of like whatever people. I mean, we don't have anyone trying to make Camp as a starter. Like we kind of have established who our starters are. That's Nick Martinez, Lugo, Waka, Snell, and Darvish. And the sixth one is probably going to be. It'll depend. Probably Weathers and Morahone.
Well, Morahone starting the season hurt.
Right, that's right.
It'll be Weathers or Honeywell.
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised that Honeywell made the team and Groom didn't. Groom had a really bad last outing, but I feel like Honeywell always had a bad outing every time I saw him.
Honeywell, the problem with Honeywell was he struck when his stuff was on point, he struck everybody out.
Right.
It was like a 50-50 shot. Maybe they were working with something on with him. Maybe it was
I
one of
trust
those things.
Ruben. Yeah, I do trust.
I do. Yeah, I do too. And so, yeah, our starting pitching for the first 10, 12 days is going to be a bit wonky because we're waiting for Darvish to come back. He won't come back till Sunday. Snell looked amazing his last couple starts. He looked like end of season Snell.
Yep.
Musgrove was going to come back probably.
They say the 10th or 11th.
Yeah. So it's going to be a bit wonky. Mid-April, we should have our full team. April 20th, we should have our whole team.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's all that really stuck out to me in spring training was just it's just really exciting to see. Even last year, there was still like, I hope we find someone here that's just going to break out and just push this team into another level.
I don't have any problem. All of our depth pieces, even though our starting is like we don't have our dream rotation right now with our starters,
right?
We have enough good pitchers in our bullpen to carry it.
Oh yeah, it's the first spring training in my memory where there was no open competitive spots.
Yeah.
Starting is always spots in the rotation and relief pitching. That's all because it's just the way. No pitching staff is 100% healthy all the time, right? So it just was fun to see. Like, oh, we kind of knew who the starters were, right?
Yeah.
With the exception of the right field, like who's going to be our right fielder for the first 20 games? That's a question mark, kind of. But we got Ozokar and Dahl, which I think we haven't quite. Gotta give AJ Preller credit for basically being like, yeah, Ozokar and Dahl are going to platoon for the first 20 games, and Ozokar hit a home run. So you don't know. Maybe Ozokar can have competition to Tatis. Maybe. I can't say that with a straight face.
I love Sugar. I really do.
Yeah.
But with Grisham hitting the way he's hitting.
The move is going to be with Ozokar is going to be he is going to pinch run for Nelson Cruz almost every game. Nelson Cruz plays, right? He's on base, and Matt Carpenter comes in to replace him. But that's the move. Ozokar will play a lot for pinch running reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
I think so.
I mean, Ozokar was the winning run. It seemed like a dozen games last year.
Oh yeah. I don't know. We are. I think speaking for myself, I'm just very excited for the first time in a long time as a Padres fan. I'm not really worried about depth pieces. I'm not really worried about that. The things that I worry about, and we'll talk about more in our episode where we have the full roster and our expectations for the season, is I do wonder a little bit about like the catching position. I like Camposano, and he seems to be progressing. But I don't know. The more I think about it, there's just so much so much to be fearful of with Austin Nola.
Yes.
He's a tough guy, and he calls an incredible game. But man, oh man, I just cannot watch him give up 400 more stolen bases and have and he was great in the playoffs, but just the dude has no pop. And I don't know. I think that position is, I worry a little bit about that because if he doesn't do well, the bases are bigger now. People are going to steal more bases.
Limited pickoff moves.
I just can't watch every walk be a double again.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. It just, to me, it's like, I wonder, that's the big thing about, I wish, I do kind of wish we went a little harder in that. I wish we took more risk in that position to get someone who was more, who actually has a good pop time to throw runners out.
I mean, unfortunately, yes, we do have the best catching prospect in all of baseball now, but he's 16. So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
we're going to be asking that question for at least 2 more years until he's ready to play the big leagues. Even though he hit during spring training, got a couple hits.
He caught an inning of Ryan Weathers baseball. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
His
don't know.
pop time ranks in the top 99th percentile. His arm strength, 99th percentile. The kid, he's 16 years old, and he's already one of the best catchers. But you can't play a 16-year-old for some reason.
No, some reason. Yeah, so
Child labor laws are killing this country.
yeah, that's kind of my thoughts about spring training all over the place. But I think it'll be more formalized once I know the roster. And but overall, I'd say this: I give the spring training a B plus, maybe an A minus. It wasn't. We didn't have Tatis be called opening day. We didn't have Paddock be open days. Either.
Yeah.
There wasn't like big moments in spring training from a pure entertainment perspective. Maybe actually not even that entertaining. Maybe a C minus, maybe a D.
They were getting ready for the game. Soto was entertaining on all the behind the scenes things.
Oh yeah.
They look like a group of professionals knowing that they're getting ready for a season.
Yep. Well, James, the last thing on our topic list is Blake Snell was named opening day starter. So, how about that? Snellzilla pitching in his favorite ballpark to pitch, Petco Park, and it'll be a hoot. I think.
Big hoot. And I mean, the thing is, like, he was pitching really well in spring training.
Yep.
One might say that he's only the opening day starter because of process of elimination, but no, I legitimately think we have 3 aces on our staff, and if he could pitch consistently, like we've seen him at the end of every season,
Yeah.
he'll be a Cy Young contender again this year. And I think he's going for it because he's a free agent in this year, and he knows it, and he always can step up, and he has stepped up this whole year. I'm expecting multiple shutouts from Blake Snell this year.
I like it. Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be fun to watch Snellzilla. Always a fun time. It's going to be crazy. It hasn't yet sunk into me. The Padres season is about to start.
I know.
Has not sunk into me at all. But it's going to be crazy at Petco on Thursday. It's going to be a mania. But I'm super excited about it. And it should be a good time. And we'll be podcasting from here on out. Buckle up, boys and girls. It's going to be a fun time.
And until next week, go Padres.
Go Padres.
There it is! Ho ho, doctor! You can hang a star on that, baby!